Good morning everyone. Myself Madhusmita Biswar, Faculty of Civil Engineering. Today we are going to start a new chapter, that is Diversion Headwork and Regulatory Structures. So in this chapter we will reading about necessity and objectives of diversion headwork, weirs and barrages, functions of different parts of barrages and functions of regulatory structures. So we will be reading all of this one by one. So first, what do you mean by headwork? Any hydraulic structure which supplies the water to the off-taking canal is called headwork. Okay, so you have seen a hydraulic structure which has been in the canal to distribute the water from the river to the canal, that is known as headwork. Okay, headwork may be divided into two types. First is storage headwork and second one is diversion headwork. So what do you mean by storage headwork? A storage headwork comprises the construction of a dam on the river. It stores water during the period of excess supplies and releases it when demand overtakes available supplies. So next, that is, what do you mean by diversion headwork? To divert the required supply to the canal from the river, that is known as diversion headwork. Okay, there are also two types of diversion headwork. First is temporary spots or bonds, which are temporary and is constructed every year after the floods. Next one is permanent weirs and barrages. So next we will be reading about what are the objectives of diversion headwork. It raises the water level in the river so that the command area can be increased. It regulates the intake of water into the canal. It controls the silt entry into the canal. It reduces the fluctuations in the level of supply in the river. It stores water over some small periods of short supplies. Okay, so these are the objectives of diversion headwork. So we studied about the headwork, that is of two types. First is storage headwork. Storage headwork means it mainly composed of the construction of a dam on the river, and here it is a diversion headwork. Diversion headwork means it is the construction of the weirs and barrages in the river to divert the supply canal from the river. Okay, next these are the objectives of the diversion headwork. Next we will be reading about selection of the site for the diversion headwork. First, at the site the river should be straight and narrow. The river banks should be well defined. The valuable land should not be submerged when the weir or barrage is constructed. The elevation of the site should be much higher than the area to be irrigated. The site should be easily accessible by the roads or railways. The materials of construction should be available in the vicinity of the site. The site should not be far away from the command area of the project to avoid the transmission loss. So these are the how we will select the site for the diversion headwork. First, the site should be straight and narrow, and the river bank should be also well defined, and it should be located at the site which must be higher than the area to be irrigated, and the site should be easily accessible by the roads or the railways, and the materials of the construction should be easily available at that site, and that site should not be far away from the area of the project to avoid the transmission loss. Next, there should be suitable arrangement for the diversion of the river during the construction. The site should be such that the weir or barrage can be aligned at right angles to the direction of the flow in the river. There should be suitable locations for the undersluices, head regulator and other components of the diversion headwork. The diversion headwork should not submerge costly land and property or needs upstream. Good foundation should be available at the site. The required materials of the construction should be available near the site. The site should be easily accessible by the road or railway, and the overall cost of the project should be a minimum. So these are all the selection of the site for the diversion headwork. Next, we will be reading about what are the components of a diversion headwork. So first component is weir or barrage. Next one is undersluices. Third one is divide wall. Fourth one is piece ladder. Fifth one is canal head regulator. Sixth, that is silt excluders or silt prevention devices. Last one, that is the river training work that is marginal bonds and guide banks. Next, we will be reading all of this, the components one by one. Okay. So first is wear. Normal, the water level of any perennial river is such that it can be diverted to the irrigation canal. The bed level of the canal may be higher than the existing water level of the river. In such cases, the weir is constructed across the river to raise the water level. Surplus water pass over the crest of the weir. Adjustable shutters are provided on the crest to raise the water level to some required height. So, here in the weir, mainly the water level of the river, it cannot be diverted to the irrigation canal, okay, and the bed level of the canal may be higher than the existing water level of the river, and the shutters are provided on the crest to raise the water level to some required height. You can see here the diagram of the weir. Here you can see weir without shutters, and here you can see the weir with shutters, okay. So here you can see this, the figure, this is the crest level, that is known as pond level. This is the total ponded by the raised crest. This is the crest of which the water has been raised. This is the weir without shutters. Here the shutters have not been provided, but here in this picture the shutters have been provided, okay. So you can see here, this is the shutter one, crest shutter. Here you can see here, this is the crest level, and this is the total ponding. The water has been filled up here, and the shutter, if the shutter will be open here, then the water will be flow direction towards the right direction, okay. This is the ponding by the crest shutter, and this is the ponding by the raised crest, okay. So these are all the images of the weir, okay. So next we will be reading about barrages. When the water level on the upstream side of the weir is required to be raised to different levels at different times, then the barrage is constructed. Barrage is an arrangement of the adjustable gates or the shutters at different tiers over the weir, okay. So here you can see in the barrage, these are the pictures of barrage, okay. When the water level on the upstream side of the weir is required to be raised to different levels at different times, so that the barrage is constructed. And what do we mean by barrage? The barrage is an arrangement of the adjustable gates or the shutters at different tiers over the weir, okay. You can see here, this is the barrage with a small raised crest, and this is the barrage without any raised crest, okay. Here you can see, here the crest has been, here, there, this is the gate, and this is the crest level, and this is the pond level, ponding by the gate, ponding by the crest, and this is the barrage without any raised crest, okay. This is, you can see, this is the pond level. Here the crest has not there, okay. That means the shutter has been not there here. This is the total ponding by gate. This is the P1 equals to 0, P2 equals to P, okay. So this is all about this image, okay. So next we will be reading about what is the difference between the barrage and the weir. In the barrage, that is the low set crest. In the weir, that is the high set crest. In barrage, ponding is done by the means of gates, but in weir, ponding is done against the raised crest or partly against crest and partly by the shutters. In barrages, the gates are of a greater height, but in the weir, the shutters are of a small height, that is of a 2 meter. Next, in the barrage, perfect control on the river flow. In the weir, no control of the river in the low floods. In the barrage, less silting upstream due to the low set crest, but in the weir, raised crest causes silting upstream. Next, in the barrage, the longer construction period, but in the weir, there is a shorter construction period. In barrages, there is a silt removal is done through the undersluices, but in weir, no means for the silt disposals. But in barrage, it is a costly structure, but in weir, it is a relatively cheaper structure. So this is all about the difference between the weir and the barrage, okay. So these are the 10 points you have to remember, because this comes in the exam of your semester exam. This comes the difference between the barrage and the weir. So 5 mark or 10 mark. So next we will be reading about undersluices, okay. In the next slide we will be reading this. Thank you.